Thank you for starting the recording. As part of our regular agenda, let's go ahead and introduce some of the new members who've joined in to this call today. I see Shweta and Arushi who've joined probably for the first time. So would you like to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Cool. Yeah, I can go if you want. Hey, I'm Arushi. I work in the SRE space, and currently I'm living in Germany. Yeah, nice to meet you all.
Welcome to the Litmus community, Arushi. Glad to have you.
Thanks.
Hi everyone, myself Shweta. So I'm working in the performance engineering group, and currently checking out the Litmus tool to see if it suits us. Yeah, thank you so much.
Welcome, Shweta. Happy to meet you and welcome to the Litmus community. I think we have a lot of known folks otherwise here from the Litmus contributor community. We also have Zikyang from the Chaos community. We have Mona, I think, who's probably joined for the first time. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, hi Karthik. My name is Mona Priya, and I've been working along Shweta and Lois, so I'm in the same journey. Hi, Shweta.
Okay, great to have you both here. Thanks for joining. I think with that, let's probably get started with our agenda items for today. We have the 2.8 release that just happened a few days back on the 15th of April. And we have Vedant here who can speak about the release notes. Just a very quick walkthrough of what we got done as part of the previous release. So Litmus has a monthly release cadence, as you might already know. The latest version is 2.8, and we have been making some incremental progress in terms of the chaos control plane and the execution plane features ever since we released the 2.0 platform around late last year. So Vedant, it's all yours. You can probably share your screen and go through some of the salient features delivered as part of this release.
Yeah, thanks, Karthik. I hope I'm audible. So, hey everyone, this is Vedant. A bit of introduction about me. So, I am a core contributor at LitmusChaos and senior software engineer at Harness. So, I will be giving you a brief walkthrough of the release notes of our latest release that we just had, 2.8.0. So, I'm just sharing my screen. Yep. Okay. I hope it is quite visible. So yeah, like we generally, like as we have been doing, we divide our release notes into two parts, that is core component updates and chaos center updates. So core components generally, relates to the operator and different experiments and different core sites. And on the chaos center side, we generally refer to
interim roadmap for Litmus over the next few quarters, or let's say over the next few months. There have been a good number of enhancement requests that we have been getting from the community around minor feature increments, as well as some major features that are being asked for. The maintainers are at this point trying to prioritize these requests and formulate them into a roadmap plan. I would like to just take you through some of the prioritized items at this point, which we've gone ahead and updated on the repo, while there are other requests that are being considered right now and being worked upon before they get added. Before we get there, I think we have a few new folks who've joined in as Vedant was going through the release notes. We have Kalpesh, Saujanya, Prateek, Brett, some of you folks, would you like to just introduce yourselves, talk about your interest in chaos?
Hi, I am Pratik. I am currently pursuing BTech in Computer Science and Engineering. So mainly I want to explore the community of LitmusChaos. So I joined the channel and the Zoom links.
Awesome. Welcome, Pratik.
Thanks.
Hey, my name is Kalpesh. I'm from Intuit. I'm pretty sure you must be knowing some other folks from Intuit as well, but this is my first time I'm attending this community meeting just to learn more about the Litmus and what's new and the feature going in, and of course the roadmap.
Thank you, Kalpesh. Warm welcome to you. I think the Intuit has been wonderful advocates of chaos engineering, and Litmus also in particular. Thank you for joining the call.
Yeah.
All right. I think let me share my screen, and we'll probably talk about the roadmap. Okay. So these are some of the items under active development. There were a few items that moved from in progress into the completed state. Recently, we went ahead and added the scaffolding scripts for Python. So these are available in the Litmus Python repository. So if you are interested in writing your own experiments in Python, you can use this to bootstrap your experiment. We also moved a few other items here recently, especially in terms of complete support for orchestration of non-native chaos libraries, and also getting started with an E2E framework. I think that was a long pending item. We do have an E2E dashboard that Vedant can probably provide links for, where we're trying to capture some nightly runs for the community's consumption. The items that are in progress right now, and I'll probably breeze through some of these components quickly, some of these requests quickly. The chaos workflow construction wizard today does not fully provide all the schema elements for selection. That is, yeah, you can select maybe some environment variables. You might be able to select the app info, the labels, namespace, app kinds, etc. But being experiments that run as pods, the business logic default or chaos business logic runs from a pod. There are other attributes that we support in terms of resources that you can run the pods with, tolerations that you can use to schedule the experiment pods on a particular node. You can specify node selectors, you can specify image pull secrets, you can specify a host of other things that generally Kubernetes allows for its workloads. That, and apart from that, there are a few other newly added schema elements, especially within the probe, which are not fully represented in the workflow construction wizard. So that's something that we are working on adding to give users complete flexibility and not have them edit YAML once a basic workflow is created, to force fit all these flags within the YAML file and sort of add it by default through the form. So that's one thing that we are working on. There is also the YAML linter in case you have hand created workflows. If you've gone ahead and changed something on your YAML files, it's possible that there might be some typos or some small errors. Some of them general YAML errors, and some of them could be errors from a chaos engine schema point of view, which the regular YAML couldn't catch. So some of this needs to be called out even before the users go ahead and run the experiments, run the workflows, because otherwise at the time of running the workflow, you might get an error, which is probably which is going to have you go back and change everything newly. And we're also, for the record, trying to improve the error handling and not give cryptic errors on why the workflows wouldn't run. right? That's been a user complaint for some time now, so we're trying to improve on that. And call out what exactly has failed, even in the case where we went ahead and ran the workflow. So the YAML enter for workflows is a step in that direction. Probably highlight issues before you go ahead and schedule it. The other one is something that we alluded to a few minutes back. We're trying to minimize the role permissions for chaos service accounts. For example, there were certain verbs on config maps and secrets, which probably are not really recommended, considering you can run the execution plane components in cluster-wide mode. So you don't want to be reading secrets or config maps from other namespaces and trying write operations against them. Some of these we've tried to minimize, make it more stricter. There's another feature which the community has been asking us for. The Chaos Center users or the account users on the Chaos Center today are sort of independent from the service accounts, the Chaos service accounts on the cluster. So the Chaos Center users, account users today have access to a service account that probably have a larger set of permissions and do not logically map to the level of RBAC that you provided to them on the Chaos Center platform. For example, you could have an editor, you could have a user whom you've mapped to a particular cluster or namespace, but that user has access to a service account which is having cluster-wide permissions. These are things that we would like to avoid, and we are in the process of ensuring that a Chaos Center user account on the platform can also be mapped to a specific Chaos service account on the cluster as well. The admin has the permissions, or the admin has the option of being able to map them and ensure that the Chaos Center account user has a limited scope when doing actions on the cluster. We are almost underway with that feature, and that's something that should be available very quickly. I see a question, a raised hand from Shweta. Is that a question, Shweta?
Yes, Karthik. So are there any plans for the user account permissions with respect to the agents available at the Chaos Center?
Yes. So I think at this point of time, I think I'm sort of getting what you're asking. I think maybe we chatted about it on Slack as well. As of today, there is a roundabout way to achieve what we're talking about. That is, ensure that a particular Chaos Center user is mapped to a specific agent. That is possible to do if you are using namespaced mode installation of the agents. There is a document which I can very quickly bring up, or maybe I will just post it on the Zoom chat once we get to a different topic or at the end of this call. Yeah. You could have the admin disable the self agent, get multiple users to log into their own projects and get them to add their own namespaced scoped agents. That way you are creating a one-to-one mapping between the Chaos Center user and the agent. And you also have the capability to reduce the permissions of a service account within that namespace for the same name that gets selected by default. Litmus admin is the service account that gets selected by default today, even for the namespace mode. You can reduce the amount of permissions you give to that, and that way you're safe. But all this is manual activity. It needs to be done by hand. This particular feature we are talking about tries to give that off the box. So when you install Chaos Center and you're creating some user accounts, the admin can right at get-go map these user accounts to a service account on the cluster. So that way, that's what they can use in their workflows and they can't use others. That kind of binding we can create. I hope that answers.
Yes, Karthik. So the workaround you're talking about is the one that we discussed earlier, right? I mean, create the namespace agents and then
yes,
for that particular user. Got it.
Right.
Thank you, Karthik.
Cool. The next item here is providing a complete workflow termination or abort capability. Right now, there is a terminate workflow feature that I'm sure some of you must be using, but that is more helpful for scheduled workflows in preventing further iterations of the workflow run. It's also helpful for stopping the next task or step within an ongoing workflow. But if the step at which you terminated it happens to be the one where you already ran a chaos engine, we are not rolling back the chaos engine today. If a chaos engine has already been created and the runner and experiment pods are already in progress, they are not getting terminated as a result of this termination. It is only going to sort of take effect for next steps of that workflow or next iteration of this of the entire workflow. But we want to have a more complete meaning to this termination. Even if there is in-flight experiments, they are expected to stop. The chaos engine should get into stopped state. So that is something that we are working on. The chaos engines do support a stop flag. They can be aborted today, and we are just adding the right hooks so that when we're doing a workflow termination, we are also going and adding the stop flag to the chaos engine, thereby killing the ongoing in-flight experiment as well. So this is something that is also being worked on. The other item here is the cross-hub experiment support within the chaos workflow. So what does this mean? Today, when you create a chaos workflow from your chaos center, you have the option of picking faults from a single chaos hub. In one given workflow, you cannot pick experiment 1 from hub source 1, chaos hub 1, and experiment 2 from a chaos hub 2. That is a restriction that we want to get over. This particular item is helping you to add experiments from various hub sources, and you could be adding different hubs for various reasons. Maybe you want to categorize your hubs based on the department or the application or the use cases. It could be anything. Just for ease of management, you could have multiple repositories with a different set of experiments, and as part of a workflow, you might want to pick and choose from them when constructing it. So that's something that's coming up as well. The other one, which is again a much asked feature from the community, is the Helm chart for the chaos execution plane. So today, the subscriber and rest of the execution plane components, the operator, workflow controller, et al., all of them are being set up or installed using LitmusCTL in case of external clusters you're connecting to the platform. Or if it is self-agent, then it's sort of happening automatically once you create the admin project. But this particular scenario or the feature is mainly targeted towards the cases where you're connecting external clusters into Chaos Center. And the flip side of what we're doing today with LitmusCTL is that the YAML for the execution plane components, the large manifest that gets created and applied, is not very well auditable by the users. So for people who want more control over what they're installing, want to make tweaks, want to make changes, the current model using LitmusCTL is not very helpful. That's one reason. And the other drawback is, let us say you are bringing up a lot of clusters. Maybe they are transient clusters that are being brought up as part of a CD or CI/CD pipeline. And as part of the cluster bring up, you also want to auto connect it or register it with a given control plane. And you don't want to really run manually a LitmusCTL command, interactive or non-interactive flow to connect it. You want the whole connect to the control plane to be automated. The agent setup and connection to the control plane should be automated for a cluster that you're bringing up. And that is a reality today, especially as we see chaos being used more and more within CI/CD pipelines. We are having this case, and that is where the Helm chart for the execution plane components is going to be helpful. So the Helm chart will have certain references. You will be able to set certain values within the chart to provide the control plane URL and some of the access keys and some of these details, and that will automatically connect to the control plane. Some work around this is already taken place in the community. One of our contributors, Remy, has already put out a PR in support of Helm chart for the execution plane components. We are basically addressing the pros and cons of some of the approaches here. We will be adding it quite soon and enable users to automatically connect their execution plane to the chaos center. So that's one of the other items being worked on. The next one, now this is more specific to the experiments. The command probe, being the flexible probe type that it is, has found widespread adoption, where people have been asking for more power to the command probe. Today, the command probe can run in two modes. One is the source mode, where you can specify an image that contains the CLI utilities or the tools that you need to carry out a certain validation or hypothesis validation for a given experiment. This is brought up as a pod during experiment execution, and it will carry out some validation, and the STD out will then be compared against an expected string, and then you get a probe success or probe failure. And then the other mode is inline mode, when the experiment pod itself carries out the commands. Typically small bash commands or kubectl commands can be done that way. But the command probes are being used quite inventively by the community, and they are coming up with requests for other, we started out by providing the source mode command probes with just simple pods. But again, there's requests coming in for different networking configuration for those pods, privilege access for those pods, again, tolerations, node selectors, labels and annotation injections into that pod. So the command probe pod, or the source pod that is executing the command probe, is being required to expand its capabilities. So that needs some schema changes in our chaos engine, which we are working on right now. Again, one of our core contributors, Om, has been working on these changes and has a working command probe, advanced command probe with a lot of other schema capabilities. So that's something that we are going to be bringing in, and we hope that it will help the community do their own validation for the experiments, and it gives them more flexibility. The other one is support for an artifact sync. When you're running workflows that are not purely chaos and have some elements of performance benchmarking in it, or maybe you're running some kind of compliance test, etc., along with the chaos, you would like to see some of those reports in a particular location, so that you can go browse it and see what happened when the chaos was running. How did the performance change, for example? Today, the chaos result is very opinionated. It has a specific schema, carries a probe success, probe status, and then a verdict. But it doesn't really have the place or has not been designed to hold all this custom information. Let's say you have a JSON being spitted out by your benchmark tool, and you want to store that somewhere and validate it. How would you do that? So support for some kind of an artifact sync, something that is S3 compatible. You could have run a local min.io, for example, or you could be configuring an S3 endpoint with some permissions. You can go ahead and push those reports there and sort of link it back to the chaos center, just as you would download logs or view chaos results. You can also see these reports. Anything custom that you ran, you can also see it as part of your chaos reports. So that's one of the things that are being worked on. The other item is about Chaos Hub refactor. The Chaos Hub, as you're all aware, is the open sort of catalog for experiments that Litmus hosts. The instructions in the Chaos Hub still correspond to the 1.x world of running chaos, where you directly apply the chaos engine and see the workflow. I mean, the pods getting created. You have a dedicated RBAC, recommended RBAC for each experiment, etc. This is technically still holding good. This is still true, but I think the recommendation that we are making to the community is to run the chaos workflows, use the chaos center, as that is more powerful. So the hub instructions and the hub data that you see within each of the experiments, that's going to change a little bit. It's probably going to become more oriented towards what you can do from chaos center, how you can use this experiment as part of a workflow and things like that. So there's going to be some amount of changes to the UX of the hub, and that's what we mean by this particular line here. The next one is a long pending item. I think this is going to stay inside of the under development or the backlog for quite some time, because there's a lot of scope here for us to cover, and this is true for all the tools in the chaos community. Adding more experiments for the non-Kubernetes targets, so to say, virtual machines, cloud infrastructure, and that would span across different providers like AWS and GCP, Azure, VMware. A lot of bare metal use cases are coming up as well. So support for those components is something that we've been working on adding, and Nilanjan spoke about that in some of the earlier calls. And then improved documentation, better monitoring dashboards. There are some sample Grafana dashboards that we recommend people to use or provide it as part of the monitoring setup documentation, just for evaluation purpose, just for getting started. But the idea is to add more monitoring dashboards, essentially Grafana dashboards for popular applications and chaos against them. So that's something that is still being worked on. And then increased fault injection types. There's been some progress made on all this. I think we will have some more announcements to make in subsequent calls about new fault types that will be supported. And the special interest groups, this is something that we are approaching slowly, but it's steadily happening. We have a couple of operational SIGs in Litmus. Special interest groups are there for deployment, for testing, for orchestration, for observability, etc. If you are interested in any specific aspect of chaos or Litmus, for example, you're interested in testing it, you're interested in how it sort of integrates with CI/CD platforms, or interested in what observability features are being added into Litmus, or if you're interested in keeping the documentation up to date, please let us know. We will help with getting you kick-started with a few initial action items that you don't need to spend too much time on, but you can actively work on and contribute to the betterment of the project, and also assume a community leadership role within the project. So the special interest groups is something that we borrowed from the CNCF model, and like I said, there are a couple that are operational, or you could say semi-operational today, and we are looking at improving it and making it formal, and get the progress going on the project, and get it really driven by the community rather than a closed group of maintainers. So that is what we are working towards as part of the roadmap, and we will be focusing on these items in the upcoming months. If you would like to see anything here, something that's really pressing, or something that's bothering you and it's blocking you from proceeding with your chaos journey, please let us know as issues, or you can reach out to us on Slack and talk about it. We'll be happy to help you. So I think that was it for the roadmap. I can take some questions on some of these items. If something here was not understood very well, or you need additional context, or any other questions on roadmap, I can take them now. All right. Okay, there's a question from Somesh. Please go ahead, Somesh.
Yeah, hi Karthik. Many congrats to the Litmus community for successive monthly releases. It's great watching consistent progress in the tool. So I had a question regarding the probe enhancements that is actively being worked upon. I'm not sure if my requirement is already met, but I'll try to query the same. So for our experiments, we do validate the pods over which certain chaos has been injected. Suppose a network loss chaos has been injected on a pod. So we probe it by also pinging the pod to see the same packet loss percentage being reflected on the pod as we had introduced. So for such a thing, do we have any possible probe, or it's still a work under progress?
It's a good question. So you could do the probes for such experiment in two types. One is, okay, we've injected some amount of packet loss. We want to really see what is the overall health endpoint of the application looking like. So that's something that you can check using the HTTP probes today. That's helpful. Or you could also use the Prometheus probes in case you've set up some application metrics, and you can query it from there as well. You could also use the Prometheus probe to track the network traffic changes in case you have C advisor metrics, or you have pod level or container level metrics coming from node exporter or C advisor, etc. So that's one way of doing it, using prom probe and HTTP probe. In case you would specifically like to run some commands, some networking commands, some tools, you might be using ping, or you could be using some other tool to go ahead and run against this particular pod and try and parse your results and compare it against expectation. That's a use case for the command probe. You could do that today with using an inline command probe. So that is something that is already available. So I can just point you to the documentation for that. So that's there in the Litmus experiment docs. So this is the resources. You could see that.
Okay. Is it the command probe you are trying to point out?
Yes, it's the command probe. Yes.
Okay, which has the types like during chaos, before chaos, after chaos. Yeah. So
that's true.
Yeah, we can talk this offline. Actually, I was in touch with Vedant where I had mentioned him. This is actually not working in the intended way. But yeah,
okay.
we can discuss this offline also, if that's the only possible way at present.
Sure.
That
yeah. Yeah. Feel free to reach out on Slack, Somesh. I think we can resolve that.
Sure. So a couple of questions around the release also. So as we see, there are monthly releases being coming up, and as an org level, so we don't prefer usually upgrading it to every month releases, and we kind of use the very stable or more feature oriented version for a longer period, like at least 3 months. So is there any documentation like or any limit up to what certain level a particular version can be skipped to the upgrade, or there is any breakdown there possibility, or any recommendations around those areas?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think we've seen this pattern in some of our users where they don't really upgrade every month, and they would sort of skip. We're trying to get to a point, Somesh, where you can upgrade from any version to any version. That's definitely the ideal case, and we are working towards that by improving our upgrade agents. But like Vedant mentioned during his walkthrough, it's still one step up today. So you need to be coming from the previous to the next, and from there to the next, kind of a thing.
Right.
But if you are using the 1.x mode of execution, that is, if you have pulled in the operator directly and you're applying the chaos engines directly and not going through the control plane, that should be any to any. So you should be able to upgrade the operator to any newer version and just take the latest chaos engine schema. If you're going through the control plane and execution plane model, that would still need a stepped upgrade. We are working towards an any to any. That's something that we can get to at some point in the future.
Okay. Okay, Karthik. So yeah, just one more question from my side. So at present, we are exercising 2.5.0 LitmusChaos, and in the workflow, while introducing the experiments, we see there the pattern is sequential. So can a single workflow hold multiple experiments in a parallel induction way?
Yes, we do support that. If you're constructing the workflow using the workflow wizard, there's an edit sequence button that you would see, which will help you to drag drop the experiment nodes, and you could set up things parallelly, or you could even edit a YAML file. There are some syntax conventions that you need to take care of to ensure that workflow runs experiments parallelly, but that's something that's doable. And what is the scale that is supported? What is the number of parallel experiments you can run is something that's depending upon how much resources you provide to your execution plane and how well the cluster is resourced. So that's something that you would need to look at it on a case-by-case basis. But I think for most part, you should be able to run multiple experiments in parallel without much issue.
With a single workflow.
Within a single workflow, that's right.
Okay. Okay, Karthik. Sure.
I think that's also a great item for us to factor in our E2E as part of some scale tests. So yeah, I think we will definitely take that on board. So thanks for bringing that up.
Sure. Thanks for the discussion, Karthik and team.
Thank you. I see Mahesh has a question. Also, Shweta has another question. Maybe would you like to go next?
Hey, hi Karthik. This is Mahesh.
Hi Mahesh.
Yeah, we are planning to implement chaos engineering using Litmus framework in our organization. So as a POC project, so we are trying to understand. I mean, we just cloned the repo of code 2.8 version, and we wanted to start with it. And we are new to this, and we wanted to set up the local code base, and we wanted to understand the total functionality and how it works, and what kind of customizations we can do based on our requirement if you wanted to proceed with this. So can someone from your team assist with us on this, setting up the things? And...
Sure, we'll be happy to help, Mahesh. Yeah, I think you can reach out to us on Slack, and I'm sure some of our contributors and the community members are very helpful. So we will be helping you with that. If we need to jump on a call and discuss some of your use cases, we'll be happy to do that as well.
Sure, definitely, Karthik. Thank you so much. I'll be reaching out to your team on the Slack. Thank you.
Thank you. Shweta and Prateek, I also have questions. Shweta, would you like to go next?
Yes, Karthik. So my question is, so when we trigger a experiment from the chaos portal, for a couple of experiments, what we see is like after a period of time, the results could be updated back to the portal, though the pods are still in running state. So right now we are using 2.2.0. Is there, I just wanted to check in the latest version after 2.2.0, is there any update on this particular issue?
I would believe so, Shweta. But once again, I think it'll be great to take a look at the logs. Specifically, whatever you mentioned about the result getting updated or the workflow status being reached and ended, but the pod still being online is something we had seen before and fixed, in my opinion, but it's possible that we might not have addressed it for some corner case. So it's definitely something we should look at from the logs and look at the setup. I'll be happy to assist you in doing that. I think the team will be interested in taking a look at that.
Sure, Karthik. Yeah, we have a thread already in the Litmus Slack channel. Maybe I'll tag you there and share any further information needed.
Sure. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, Prateek, would you like to go next?
Hi, Karthik. Yeah, I have a question regarding, we have been developing our custom experiments thanks to Om and Rajesh helping us on this. So we work for Mercedes, and we are thinking to automate this scheduling the experiments, and for DevOps engineers, it is as a source of CI/CD. We wanted to run these experiments for the before they go and develop deploy their application on production. But yeah, this can be done through the APIs, of course. And when we have gone through the API section of the Litmus, I had raised this question in the earlier meetings as well, but I think they are a little bit lengthy process where we have a lot of data conversion here from JSON to YAML, or YAML to JSON, and then it needs a user interaction actually. So are there any roadmap for these REST APIs to be simple and dynamic?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We sort of got this request as well. There's a little bit of a YAML minification that is needed today, which is out of the flow. Somebody needs to do it using a tool separately, and then add that into the payload and run it, which is not very intuitive. Right. It needs a little bit of prior preparatory work. That's definitely a roadmap item. I think you did not see it in the list here, but I'll definitely add that. Yeah, we will be happy to make the API invocation as simple as possible. So that's definitely something that we will look into. There is one alternative that you could use. You could actually pre-create workflow YAML files from the Chaos Center, keep it in a Git source, and then call that particular workflow, the fully formed workflow with your cluster ID and your workflow controller instance ID.
Yeah, but then we have our own the custom experiments are such a way that each application owners has to change some probes and environment variables, which is again that has to be done through a chaos playground. If in case we need to edit those points, right? So yeah, we have gone through this, and I had got this suggestion last time as well. So yeah, and we tried to invoke this kind of thing. Then at this point came that when we want to edit anything, we again have to fall back to playground. Yeah, that's
makes sense.
A little pain. And
makes sense.
And as well, there is another point. Since we are running right now, we are developing and running these chaos experiments in an open cloud environment. So there is no hacks or any backlogs. But when we come to a constrained environment, we have constrained environments where we cannot run any apps or the applications as a root user, where we definitely has to go with the non-root, where the MongoDB is not helping us much. And I think I raised this over a Slack a couple of days back. So is there a way where we can, and again the Mongo managed service is not an option here, as this is constrained environment. Is there a way where we can expect this whole cluster run as a non-root for a DB perspective?
Yeah, I think that's also a good point. We have in the recent past, I think, as you are already aware, moved from using root users in our images to non-root users. I think MongoDB is one third-party component that we're using within the stack, which is still using an upstream image which has root. There are solutions for this. You could be using other distros or containers of MongoDB. For example, there are ones from Bitnami and others which will provide non-root users. So you can definitely replace the current ones in our YAMLs with them. Play around and see if we are able to successfully operate the chaos DB using those images, and we can go from there. So that's one option that you can take, and there are some other options as well. I see some conversation already going on between Ajesh and the Mercedes team on possible usage of other images. I think that's something that we will eventually address as part of our security fixes that are ongoing.
Yes.
Like Vedant mentioned in the release notes, we will definitely be going ahead and replacing this with something that's non-root in near future as well.
Thank you, Karthik. That answers my questions. Thank you.
Cool. All right. I think, yeah. I think it was a great discussion today. Thank you all for staying over time and answering some really interesting questions. It really helps the community. And thanks for all the support and feedback that you've been giving us on the project. So have a great rest of the week and rest of the month. We will sync up in our next community call in the month of May. Thanks everyone. Have a great day. Bye.